So now we get into the fun ones. So these questions are going to build off of those percent times your amount questions that we just saw in the previous example. But there's definitely a lot more substance going on. So let's take a look. In a chemistry class, 12 liters of a 12% alcohol solution must be mixed with a 20% solution to get a 14% solution. How many liters of the 20% solution are needed? Now, I have a table set up here for a reason. It will help you get your equation set up. So we just have to populate this table correctly, and then the equation will kind of put itself together for us. So let's take a look. So the first column is all your percentages. So you can kind of see that we have a darker line here, and that's for a reason. Because there's two things that are usually getting mixed together to yield the third thing. So what percentages are being mixed together? So we got a 12% solution here, and it's mixed with a 20%. So let's write the 12% in the first one and the 20% in the second one. Now, the third one we're getting is 14%, so that's on the other side of the line. All right, we're a third of the way done. Now, the amounts are a little trickier, but let's see what we got. So the first one says 12 liters of a 12%. So those two go together. So I'm going to write 12. And you can put the liters in, but it's not important until the very end. That's where we want those liters to be recognized. So we got 12 in the first one. Must be mixed with a 20% solution. They don't say how much though. Well, and then if we look at the final question, how many liters of the 20% are needed? So that's what we were trying to find. So that's what we don't know. So let's call that X. And again, it's liters, but we don't really need the liters. We just need the numerical values. And then the last part says to get a 14% solution. Again, it doesn't say how much. So here's where we're going to put on our thinking caps. So if I got 12 liters of stuff and I'm mixing it with an unknown amount of stuff, how much stuff do I end up with? Well, let's use an example. If I have 12 liters of stuff here and I added 10 liters of stuff to it, well, I better have 22 liters, right? So no matter what I pick for the second quantity, I always have to add 12 to it. So if I had, 25 liters of stuff here, well, 12 and 25 is 37. But I have X. So how can I write this expression if all I have to do is add 12 to it? I can just say X plus 12, right? Yeah. So no matter what value of X I have here, I got to put that same number in this spot here, and that gives me the correct amount on the other side. So that should be my quantity, my amount for the other side. Okay. Now the last column is really based off of the first two. So we just need to multiply across, and that will fill in this third column. So we got 12%, let's change it to a decimal now, times 12. We got 20% times X, and then we got 14% times X plus 12. All right, so now I have all this mess. What do I do with it? How do I put this into an equation? Well, your equation is going to be based off of all these things we just wrote in this last column. So remember, the first two things are being mixed. If you're mixing things together, how do you combine them operationally? You got to add them. So that's all we're going to write is 0.12 times 12 plus 0.20 times X. And we're going to get, or we're going to equal on the other side, our 0.14 times x plus 12. That's your equation. That's going to give us our answer. So we got to be a little careful with the decimal points and all that stuff, but we can do it. So if we multiply 12 times 0.12, we're going to get 1.44 plus the 0.20x. And now how do we take care of these parentheses again? Yeah, we got to distribute it. So 0.14x and then 0.14 times 12 is 1.68. All right, I'm going to exchange my pencil. All right, so now we got rid of the parentheses, so now we got to start moving stuff around. So let's work with our x's. We got 0.20x and we got 0.14. 0.14 smaller, so let's move that one over. So we got 1.44 plus 0.20 minus 0.14. Well, that better be 0.06x equals 1.68. All right, now we can get rid of the 1.44. So we have 0.24. And now the last step is to get rid of that 0.06, which we can do by dividing. So x equals, because I'm a little bit too hard on my pencils. So x equals 4. So to wrap up your answer, so we need 4 liters of 20% solution. 4 liters of 20% solution will make this all work. I know I make it look easy, but like I said, the table is the important part of it. If you can get the table filled in correctly, that helps you generate your equation, and then you just got to be careful, obviously, when you solve it. Now, most of the time, you're going to get nice answers. I mean, if you look back at the previous problems, the answers were pretty nice. They were positive. You weren't getting any negatives in there. You might get some negatives with the very, very first ones, but these ones are typically nice answers. Sometimes you're going to get some yucky fractions, but most of the time they should be nice. So if you're always getting yucky answers, then you're probably doing something wrong. So, okay, let's try another one. John earned $12,000 last year by giving tennis lessons. He invested part of that money at 3% simple interest and the rest at 4%. He earned a total of $440 in interest. How much did he invest at each rate? Well, same table as before. So let's start with our percentages. So what are we mixing together? Well, we have a 3% and a 4%. So let's write those down. We're not going to have a third percentage for this problem because it doesn't say anything about another percentage, so we're good. So what are the amounts that go with those percentages? So here's where it gets tricky again, because we know we got a total of $12,000, but how do we split it? I mean, a common response would be, well, let's just say it's X, right? We got X and X. Well, we can't do it quite like that. One of them can be X, but we can't make them both X because then we're saying they're the same amount. So if they're the same amount and it totals $12,000, that means it's 6,000, 6,000. So that can't be right. So we're going to have to replace one of them. Let's replace the second one with something else. So one of them we can leave as X. But what should the other one be to make this work? Let's go back to our just brainstorming. Let's pretend we know what this first amount is. Let's say it's $1,000. If it's $1,000 and we want to get a total of $12,000, well, that kind of forces our hand, right? That means that the 4% is going to have to be $11,000. But how did we get that mathematically? What did you actually do to get that $11,000? You had to subtract, right? You had to subtract from the 12,000. So let's change it up a little bit. Let's say we had $2,500 here. So what would that make our second amount? You still got to subtract. Subtract that 2,500 from 12,000 and we'll get 9,500. Any way you slice it, if you know what that first one is, you have to subtract it from 12,000 to get the second one. So let's do that with our x. We need to subtract x from 12,000. So 12,000 minus x will have to be that second quantity. And this is going to be a pattern with this stuff. Anytime you have a total amount of stuff, money, solutions, whatever, and you're trying to split it into two quantities, some of it's x, and the rest of it is the total minus x, always. So a little different from the previous one. So if you have a total and you're splitting it into two quantities, some of it's x, and the rest of it's the total minus x. So, okay. Now we can get into the products. So let's change those to a decimal, and let's put parentheses around our second quantity, our second amount. And so we'll say 0.04 times 12,000 minus x. So the only thing missing now is, well, okay, we have our two products just like we did up above, but we still don't have a third product. What's that? Well, that is actually the 440. The 440 is the third product. That's what we want these two quantities to equal. So if we put our equation together now, we want to add our two, these are both interests. These are both going to generate interest. This is the interest going to the one bank. This is the interest going to the other bank. We want the total interest to be the 440. So we just have to write the second quantity in and set it equal to 440. So now we have our equation to solve. So what do we do first? Well, we got parentheses, so let's get rid of that. So 0.04 times 12,000, well, I'm pretty sure that's 480. So we got rid of the parentheses. Well, we have some x's that we can combine on the same side of the equals. So remember, we're not using the addition property. We're just flat out combining them. So what's 0.03x minus 0.04x? Well, we better get a negative because this one's bigger and it's negative. So negative 0.01x plus 480 equals 440. So now we can lose the 480. So negative 0.01x equals 440 minus 480 is also going to be negative. So we're going to get a negative 40 on that. So you can see the two negatives are going to cancel out. We will end up with a positive answer. So let's divide by a negative 0.01. And so x equals 4,000. So what's our final answer though? So now we got to just say, okay, let's look back at our problem. So x was the 3%. So that means 4,000 is at the 3%. So $4,000 at 3%, and then how much at 4%? Total's 12, so we know it's going to have to be 8. All right. Pretty crazy stuff, I know, but we'll stop here and we can pick up more of this stuff in the next video. So see you soon.